Hello, 10th graders from Beehive School. This is Teacher Krishna, and welcome to our second online lesson. So, first of all, thank you everyone for the great effort that you're doing for attending and also completing all of the exercises in the online classroom because you know that we are going through a difficult situation in the country, and we totally appreciate your effort. So, with that being said, welcome to our physics class for week 11. And let me tell you that this week we are going to study topic 2.02, speed problems. Right before we start, you have to follow a couple of directions that you had to do last week as well. So you have to log into Agilex, you have to enter the Google Classroom, download the Word document from the Google Classroom, save it inside it should be a physics folder, and name it in the following way. You need your code, your name, your grade, and section. An observation, I noticed that a lot of students did not write down the appropriate name for the document last week. So make sure to have this format in your document. I have an example on the picture right below. So code number 6, name Krishna Ochoa, and grade and section A. All right, so with that being said, let's continue. So as we move, remember to take notes on the Word document. That's something very important because that is going to help you to keep track of everything we're learning. And just in case you would like to study a little bit more the topic, you can go back to your notes and you can go back to the video as well. All right, so just like I mentioned before, we're going to study topic 2.02, speed problems, and we have to begin with the ending mind. So our ending mind for this week is use a 3-step method for problem solving. So this is the first thing that you need to copy on your summary on the Word document. So if you want, you can pause the video for a little while, copy it to your Word document, and come back later on when you are done. Right, so there is something very important to remember. The process is as important as the solution itself. And just like the image says right there, respect the process. And let me tell you that right now we are going to start jumping on some more problem solving in physics. Last time we were just using a lot of graphics, we were using just very few formulas, but now we're going to start jumping on a little bit more complex topics. So I have noticed that there are very smart students that do everything in their mind and they do not write everything. But I have also noticed that those students struggle a lot with several exercises because since they didn't keep track of all of the process they had to follow, the formulas they had to use, mentally they might have not used the appropriate symbols, they have not used the appropriate data. So it's always important to have a process to follow. So before we start with the process and everything, we're going to have a speed problem here. And we have Jennifer and Hemmer were taking a trip from Tallahassee to Atlanta to visit her brother at Georgia Tech. When they started the trip at 8 a.m., the odometer reading was 75,641 miles. When they reached Atlanta at 4:20 p.m. on the same day, the odometer reading was 76,046 miles. So it says calculate the average speed for a trip. Is it logical to say that Jennifer or her mother did not break the posted speed limit? Explain your answer. All right, so if we continue, here we have the process that you need to follow. And this is the way your problem solving exercises should look like. Because remember that it's important to keep track of everything you're doing in order to analyze the process you have followed, just in case you have not gotten to the correct result. So at first, we need to find out about the distance, which we find it by adding by having a very simple math problem right there. We just have to subtract one distance from the other. In total, we will have 405 miles. Then we have to measure our time as well. So based on the times that we had before, we find that the result is 8 hours and 20 minutes. And the time data must be in either all hours or all minutes. That is something extremely important as well, because I have seen that the students start mixing hours with minutes or meters with inches, etc., etc. So it's always necessary to use the same unit whenever you are doing this kind of problems. And to convert the minutes into hours, use the conversion factor, 60 minutes equal 1 hour. That's something that we had studied as well, and how to convert from one unit to another. So the result will be 8.33 hours. Oh. So now what we need to find is our speed, or you can call it the velocity as well. So now, what is the formula you need to use to find the result? A velocity equals distance divided by time. So our distance is 405 miles divided by 8.33 hours, which will lead us to the result of 48.6 miles per hour. So if we go back to the question we had here, is it logical to say that Jennifer or her mother did not break the posted speed limit? Explain your answer. Well, no, you cannot tell their various instantaneous speed during the trip by looking at the average speed. The average speed may be below or at the average posted speed limit, but at certain times, their speeds may have been far below the speed limit, and at other times their speed may have been higher than the speed limit. So this is an example of what a good conclusion looks like. So I have seen that some students do not really specify and actually explain the answer with good basis. So they just answer something like, no, because it's just the average speed. That is not very specific. And whenever you are presenting the results of a real investigation as scientists, and you really need to be specific with your conclusions. So make sure that you write specific conclusions just like this one, all right? So now, complete practice 2 in page number 1, topic 2.02. So this is your time to start practicing on what we have just seen. Remember, you have to keep track of everything you are doing. It can be in your notebook, it can be just in a piece of paper. But remember that you have to be very specific and write down your conclusions. So after you're done with this exercise, you can go back to the video and continue with the follow-up content. All right, so welcome back. Now we have the 3-part method of problem solving. So there are very simple steps that you have to follow, and they are just 3, so they are easily to memorize. So list the givens from the problem. Number 2, write the equation that relate to the quantities. And lastly, show all the work required to obtain the solution. So, and they are just 3 very simple steps that, trust me, help a lot when solving any kind of problem. The speed problems that we have right now are pretty simple to analyze, but later on we have more complex things to work on. So number 1, what does that mean? List the givens from the problem. You have to make a list of the most important information and the most relevant information that is going to help you out to solve the problem that you have right there. Number 2, write the equation that relates to the quantities. So keep in mind that you will use specific formulas for specific problems. So make sure you write your formula so you know what you are applying into the problem. And lastly, show all the work required to obtain the solution. And You need to do everything step by step. Usually what I recommend is that you complete all of the multiplications and problems you have by sections, because sometimes when you enter everything into the calculator at once, you might not really get the results you are looking for. And it is a matter of using appropriate parentheses or appropriate brackets to separate the problems that you had inside the formula. But what I have seen is that students forget about using parentheses or brackets, or even though they use them, they don't get the correct result. So it's better to work by sections so you don't get lost while you're working there. Okay. So here I have one example. The 313-mile Pennsylvania Turnpike was begun in 1940 and was completed in 1970. The Jackson family traveled the entire length of the Pennsylvania Turnpike in 6.00 hours and 45 minutes. Find their average speed for the trip in miles per hour. All right. So here I have something very important. Keep an eye on the distractors. So in this problem, there is information that is not relevant for what what you need to do. And for example, it says it began in 1940 and it was completed in 1970. So that is information that you do not need in order to find the average speed. So just ignore that information and focus on important things, such as what is the distance that they were that they covered, what is the time that they used in order to cover that distance, right? So keep an eye on the distractors. So number one, these are the givens in the problem. We have our total distance, 313 miles. We have our total time, which is 6.00 hours and 45 minutes. We have our average speed, and this is unknown because that is exactly what we are looking for. And lastly, we have the equation for our problem. So remember, velocity or speed equals distance divided by time. Here you go. Now we just substituted everything in there. And just keep in mind that we need to convert those 45 minutes into hours. So we have a real amount of time in hours. Lastly, number three. Now we finished solving the problem, and here is the result. Velocity equals 46.4 miles per hour. Pretty simple, but one more time, it is necessary. Okay, now check the rubric on page number 2 and complete 2 exercises from the section Let's Practice. So by completing these exercises, you are going to review what we have seen, the 3 steps that you need to follow, and you will exercise a little bit more in order to understand all of the topic. So one more time, you can go to the exercises. Once you are done, you can come back here. All right, and lastly, we have your evaluation. So I need that you complete the assignment on page number 3, topic 2.02. Then complete the assessment for topic 2.02. And that'll be it for today. So thank you a lot for coming. It was a pleasure to have you here. And I really hope that all of you are doing well at home. And remember, if it's not extremely necessary to go out of your house, please stay safe with your family. And that'll be it for this week. So I will see you next week. Take care. Goodbye.